They say desperation makes you do crazy things. The night I knocked on my landlord's door, 2 months behind on rent, I was ready to beg. What I wasn't ready for was the deal she'd offer me, or how it would change everything. Rain pounded against the city window like it was trying to wash the night clean. I sat on my worn couch, clutching the notice in my trembling hands. The words blurred together, but their meaning was crystal clear. Late rent notice. 2 months behind, no job since the cafe closed, and my savings had evaporated into takeout boxes and bus fare. That was the night I decided to go upstairs to her. Rebecca Stone lived in the penthouse above my small studio apartment. She was elegant, mid-30s, the kind of woman who made silk look like armor. The first time I saw her, she was coming down the stairs, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice cool but magnetic. She always smelled faintly of jasmine and rain, the kind of scent you remember without meaning to. When I knocked on her door, my pulse hammered like I was walking into something dangerous. She opened the door wearing a gray cardigan, her hair loose, eyes sharp and unreadable. "You're the tenant from 4B, she said, studying me. "I was wondering when you'd finally come to talk. I just need more time. A week, maybe 2. Her gaze softened slightly, but not enough to ease the knot in my stomach. "You're already 2 months behind, Lena." She said my name like she'd known it for years, not just from a rent ledger. "If you can't pay, I'll have to find someone who can." "I know. I'm looking for work. I'm trying, I swear." Her eyes drifted over my face, pausing at my trembling hands. Then she sighed, quiet and low. "You shouldn't have to beg for something so small." Silence filled the room like static. I swallowed hard, ready to apologize, ready to leave. But then she stepped closer. "Maybe," she said softly, "we can make a deal." My breath caught. "What kind of deal?" She smiled faintly. Not cruel, but like she knew exactly how her words would land. "I mean, you help me with some personal things. Errands, cooking, company." I blinked. "Company?" Her smile didn't fade. "You're alone. So am I. Sometimes company can be worth more than rent." The words sat heavy between us, soaked with meaning neither of us dared to say aloud. She stepped back, gesturing toward the penthouse. "Come in, Lena. We'll talk about it properly." The apartment was a world apart from mine. Warm light spilled across marble counters, books stacked neatly beside wine glasses. Everything smelled like citrus and paper. She poured 2 glasses of red wine and motioned for me to sit. "You don't have to be afraid," she said, watching me over the rim of her glass. "I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give." "I just don't understand what this means," I whispered. She tilted her head, eyes soft but intent. "It means I like the way you look when you're nervous." The air shifted, sharp, electric. I felt my face flush, but I didn't look away. Her gaze held mine until I forgot what I came for. "I'm not good at pretending," I said quietly. "Neither am I." When she reached out, her fingertips brushed a strand of hair from my face. That small touch felt more intimate than anything I'd known in months. "I'll help you," she said. "No rent. Just be here when I ask. That's all." I nodded slowly, unable to find words. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in my small, creaking bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling her voice replay in my head. "Be here when I ask." The next morning, a message buzzed on my phone. "Come upstairs at 8. Dinner." I stared at the text for a long time, heart racing. Dinner wasn't part of any deal, but maybe that was the point. At 8 o'clock, I knocked on her door again. She opened it in a black dress that seemed to turn the light itself into something softer. Her hair was pinned loosely. Her lips painted the color of wine. "You came," she said. "You asked." A faint smile curved her lips. "Good answer." Dinner was quiet at first. She asked about my life, my family, the city. Her voice was calm, her words deliberate. Every time our hands brushed, I felt that same charge between us. Invisible, dangerous, addictive. Halfway through the meal, she leaned back, eyes glinting. Do you know why I live alone, Lena? I shook my head. Because people always want something from me. Money, power, favors. But never just me. Her honesty cracked something open in me. I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the landlord, but a woman, as tired of loneliness as I was. You're not easy to forget, I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me for a long, quiet moment. Then she said, Neither are you. Outside, rain began again, the kind that fills the night with the scent of possibility. A week passed after that dinner, and somehow I'd started living between floors. Halfway in my small apartment, halfway in hers. Every morning I'd find a text from her. Sometimes short. Coffee. Sometimes teasing. You're late. Are you avoiding your landlord? And sometimes just my name. Lena. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Every word was a thread pulling me closer. One Friday evening, she called when I was folding laundry. Her voice was softer than usual. Come upstairs, she said. I need you. I didn't ask for what. I didn't even change my clothes. When I entered her penthouse, the lights were dim. City lights painting the room in gold and blue. A half-empty glass of wine sat on the counter beside her. She looked different, unraveled. She turned toward me slowly, wearing a silk robe that clung to her frame like the night itself. I didn't mean to scare you, she said quietly. You didn't, I lied, even though my pulse was trembling in my throat. She laughed under her breath, not mocking, but broken. You're shaking. So are you. Her eyes lifted to mine. And then, without warning, she reached out, brushing her thumb along my wrist, tracing the veins like she could read something there. I'm not supposed to do this, she murmured. You're my tenant. Don't say it, I whispered. Her silence was its own answer. For a long moment, we just stood there, breathing the same air, listening to the city hum beyond the windows. Then she stepped closer. You have no idea what you do to me, Lena. The sound of my name on her lips undid me. I felt everything, fear, want, confusion, melt into one unbearable ache. I think I do, I said. And before I could think, she kissed me. It wasn't a deal. It wasn't a mistake. It was everything we hadn't said, everything we'd both been pretending not to feel. Her lips were soft, slow at first, then certain. Like she'd been waiting too long to start and too afraid to stop. When she finally pulled back, she looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. That was, she started, then stopped. I know, I breathed. We didn't talk much after that. We sat together on her couch, side by side, shoulders brushing, pretending to watch the rain. Her hand found mine somewhere between seconds and silence. She didn't let go. That night, I stayed longer than I should have. She walked me to the door, her voice quiet. You don't owe me anything, she said. Not rent, not this, not anything. I know, I whispered, but I want to be here. Her lips curved faintly. Then stay, Lena. Stay until the rain stops. So I did. Hours passed. We talked about everything. The loneliness of being strong, the way the city never sleeps, the strange ache of wanting someone you can't have. At some point, I rested my head on her shoulder. Her hand drifted into my hair, gentle, almost protective. When dawn came, the rain had stopped, but we hadn't moved. I left her apartment in the soft blue light of morning. My hair smelled faintly of her perfume, jasmine, and quiet fire. Back in my room, I stood at the window and saw her silhouette behind the curtains upstairs. And that's when I realized the deal we made wasn't about rent anymore. It was about us. The next few days blurred into something neither of us could name. She invited me for dinner twice, then breakfast. I started helping her with real things, sorting through contracts, organizing her books, walking her dog. She laughed more around me. She talked about the things she'd given up to build her life. Love, risk, softness. One afternoon, she looked up from her laptop and said, "Do you ever think about leaving this city?" I shrugged. "Sometimes, but it's all I know." She smiled faintly. "You're too young to be stuck." "You're not," I said quietly. Our eyes met again, and something in the air shifted. Like a truth we'd both been circling around finally stepped into the light. She stood, closing the distance between us. "You make it sound easy," she whispered. "Maybe it could be." Her fingers brushed mine, slow and deliberate. "You don't understand. If people found out—" I shook my head. "I don't care who finds out." She exhaled, almost in pain. "I wish I could be that brave." Then she kissed me again. Not desperate this time, but soft and certain, like she was saying thank you with her mouth. That night, I didn't go home. She took my hand, led me to her bed, and for the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of escape. The morning light was soft when I woke up in her bed. Rebecca was already awake, sitting by the window with her robe draped loosely around her, coffee in hand, hair falling over one shoulder. She looked like a painting, one of those women you'd never expect to find lonely, yet somehow always were. She turned as she felt me stir. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," I whispered back. There was no awkwardness, no pretending. Just quiet. The kind that felt safe. I walked over and sat beside her, still half asleep. She smiled faintly, handing me her cup. "You take it black, right?" I nodded. She remembered. For a while, we just watched the street below. People rushing, umbrellas spinning, a city alive while we stood still. It almost felt like the world had given us permission to pause, but the world never really does. By noon, her phone had begun buzzing with calls. She ignored most of them until one name flashed across the screen. Eleanor, building board. Her expression changed. The calm drained, replaced by something tight and tired. She answered, "Yes, Eleanor." A pause. "No, that's not true." Another pause. Longer, this time. I said, "It's under control." Her eyes flicked toward me, then away. "It's my private life. I don't owe anyone an explanation." The call ended, but the silence afterward was heavier than any argument. I stood up, wrapping the sheet around myself. "Someone found out, didn't they?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Yes. A tenant saw you leaving this morning. They told the board." My stomach dropped. "Are they threatening you?" "With removal," she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Apparently, a landlord having a relationship with a tenant looks unethical." The word relationship lingered in the air. It was the first time either of us had said it aloud. "What are you going to do?" I asked quietly. She looked at me then, really looked at me. "I don't know. I don't want to lose this building, but I also—" Her voice faltered. "I don't want to lose you." My chest ached at the way she said it, like it cost her something. "Then don't," I whispered. Her eyes softened, but her hands trembled when she reached for me. "You make it sound easy." "It is easy," I said. "You just have to choose me." The rest of the day unfolded in silence. Not cold, just full of all the words we couldn't yet say. That evening, I went back downstairs to my apartment, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. About the way her voice had cracked when she said she didn't want to lose me. About the fear I saw behind her eyes. I paced my small room, my mind racing. What if she chose the building? What if she decided I wasn't worth the risk? Around 9 o'clock, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Rebecca stood there. No makeup, no silk robe, just her, vulnerable and real. "I talked to Eleanor again," she said quietly. "I told her I'm stepping back from management for a while, letting the lawyers handle it." I blinked. "You'd really—" "Yes," she said, cutting me off gently. "Because I'm tired of pretending I don't want something for myself." She stepped closer, her voice trembling but steady. I've spent half my life managing everything. Tenants, finances, appearances. But with you, she stopped, smiling faintly. With you, I just get to feel. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just kissed her, and she kissed me back, like she'd been waiting to breathe again. Afterward, she whispered into my neck. Maybe love isn't a deal after all. I smiled, tracing her fingers. No, maybe it's the only thing that doesn't need one. We laughed softly, the kind of laugh that sounds like forgiveness. But the decision came with consequences. Over the next week, the building board called emergency meetings. Tenants whispered in hallways. Some looked at me with judgment, others with curiosity. A few even smiled, like they understood something beautiful was happening. Rebecca kept her distance in public, but every night, she'd come to my door, sometimes with takeout, sometimes with nothing but herself. One evening, she arrived looking exhausted. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her shoulders tense. They're pushing for a formal review, she said, collapsing onto my couch. Eleanor's convinced I'm violating some ethical code. She wants me to either sell the building or end this. She couldn't even say us. I sat beside her, taking her hand. What do you want to do? She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. I don't want to choose between my life's work and you. Then don't, I said firmly. We'll figure it out together. She shook her head. You don't understand what I'm risking, Lena. This building is everything I've built. My independence. My security. And what am I? I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. She froze. What am I to you, Rebecca? I pressed. Am I just something nice to have when it's convenient? Or am I worth fighting for? Her eyes filled with tears. You're worth everything, she whispered. But I'm scared. I'm scared of losing everything I've worked for. I'm scared of what people will say. I'm scared that, her voice broke, that you'll realize I'm not worth all this trouble. My heart shattered at her words. I cupped her face in my hands. Listen to me. You are worth it. You are worth every fight, every risk, every difficult choice. And I'm not going anywhere. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Promise me. I promise. We held each other that night, not with passion, but with something deeper. The kind of holding that says, I'm here, and I'm staying. The formal review happened 2 weeks later. Rebecca had to present her case to the building board in a conference room that smelled of old wood and judgment. She asked me not to come, but I went anyway, sitting in the back row where she couldn't see me. Eleanor, a sharp-faced woman in her 50s, led the proceedings. She laid out the case with cold precision. Landlord-tenant relationships created power imbalances, potential for exploitation, appearance of impropriety. When it was Rebecca's turn to speak, she stood slowly, her hands clasped in front of her. I understand your concerns, she began, her voice steady. And I take them seriously. But I want to be clear about something. She paused, her eyes scanning the room until they found mine. Lena is not my tenant anymore. As of this morning, I've transferred ownership of Unit 4B to her, free and clear. No strings, no conditions. Gasps rippled through the room. My heart stopped. What? Eleanor sputtered. You can't just... I can, and I have, Rebecca said firmly. The paperwork is filed. She owns her apartment, which means there is no power imbalance, no ethical violation, and no grounds for your review. Eleanor's face turned red. This is absurd. You're giving away property just to be with someone I love, Rebecca finished, her voice ringing clear. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. The room fell silent. She turned to look at me fully now, tears glistening in her eyes. Because some things are worth more than property. Some things are worth more than appearances. And some people are worth risking everything for. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the weight of what she'd just done. Eleanor tried to continue the meeting, but it was over. The board members murmured among themselves, some disapproving, others moved. In the end, they couldn't do anything. Rebecca had outmaneuvered them legally, and in doing so, had declared her love in the most public way possible. When the room cleared, I walked up to her. She stood there, looking both exhausted and exhilarated. "You gave me an apartment," I said, my voice shaking. "I gave you freedom," she corrected softly. "So you'd never have to wonder if you were with me because you needed something." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "You're insane," she smiled, reaching for my hand. "Maybe, but I'm insane about you." The weeks that followed were strange and beautiful. Rebecca stepped back from active building management, hiring a professional property manager to handle the day-to-day operations. It gave her time she spent with me. We took long walks through the city, holding hands without caring who saw. We cooked dinners together in my apartment, the one I now owned. We stayed up late talking about dreams we'd both forgotten we had. One Saturday morning, she showed up at my door with a proposal. "Come away with me," she said. "Just for a weekend. Somewhere quiet, away from the city." "Where?" I asked, intrigued. "There's a cabin upstate, by a lake. I used to go there when I needed to think, to breathe. I want to share it with you." So we went. The cabin was small and perfect, surrounded by trees that whispered in the wind. The lake stretched out like a mirror, reflecting clouds and sky. We spent the first day doing nothing, just existing together. Reading books on the porch, swimming in the cold water, making love slowly by the fireplace. On the second night, as we sat under the stars, Rebecca turned to me. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. My heart clenched. "What is it?" When I first asked you to make that deal, to keep me company," she paused, searching for words. "I told myself it was just loneliness, that I just wanted someone around. But the truth is, I'd been watching you for months." I turned to her, surprised. "Watching me?" She nodded, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "Every time you came home from work, tired but still smiling. Every time you helped Mrs. Chen carry her groceries. Every time you sat by your window reading. I was drawn to you, Lena. To your kindness, your strength, your light." She took my hand. "The deal wasn't about companionship. It was about giving myself permission to be close to you, to have a reason to know you. My throat tightened with emotion. "Why didn't you just ask me out?" She laughed softly, sadly. "Because I was your landlord. Because you were struggling. Because I didn't think someone like you could ever want someone like me." "Someone like you?" I repeated. "Rebecca, you're extraordinary." "I'm complicated," she corrected. "I'm difficult. I'm scared of vulnerability. I've built walls so high that I forgot what it felt like to let someone in." I shifted closer, wrapping my arms around her. "Then I'm glad I climbed them." She held me tight, her voice barely a whisper. "You didn't climb them, Lena. You made me want to tear them down myself." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other and starlight. When we returned to the city, something had shifted. Not between us, but in how we faced the world. Rebecca started attending community meetings, not as the distant landlord, but as someone invested in making the building a home. Tenants warmed to her. Some even apologized for the gossip. I found a new job at a bookstore, something I actually loved. The owner, an elderly woman named Ruth, knew about Rebecca and me. She'd smile knowingly whenever Rebecca came by to pick me up after my shift. One evening, about 6 months after that first desperate knock on Rebecca's door, we hosted a dinner party at her penthouse. We invited close friends, a few neighbors, even Mrs. Chen from down the hall. As I watched Rebecca laugh and talk, her hand occasionally finding mine across the table, I marveled at how far we'd come. After everyone left, we cleaned up together, moving in comfortable synchronization. "Happy?" she asked, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. Very, I said, leaning back into her. You? More than I ever thought possible. I turned in her arms, looking up at her. Do you ever regret it? The apartment, the board, all the complications? She shook her head without hesitation. Not for a single second. You were worth every risk, every difficult conversation, every sacrifice. So were you, I whispered. She kissed me then, soft and sweet, tasting like wine and promise. A year after we met, on a rainy night much like the first one, Rebecca and I stood on her balcony watching the city lights shimmer through the droplets. Do you remember what I said that first night? She asked, her arm around my shoulders. Which part? When I asked you to stay until the rain stopped, I smiled. I remember. She turned to face me, her eyes serious and soft. The rain stopped a long time ago, Lena, but you're still here. I know, I said, touching her cheek. Because I'm not here because of a deal, or because of rain, or because of anything except this. I placed her hand over my heart. I'm here because I love you. Her eyes glistened with tears. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. Don't be scared, I whispered. We're in this together. She pulled a small box from her pocket, and my breath caught. I know it hasn't been that long, she said, her voice trembling. And I know we've already been through more than most couples face in years, but I also know that I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. She opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring with a small diamond. Lena, will you marry me? Tears streamed down my face as I nodded, unable to speak. Yes, I finally managed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. She slipped the ring on my finger, and we kissed in the rain. The city spread out below us like a constellation of possibilities. When we finally pulled apart, she whispered, You changed everything, you know. How? I asked, though I'd asked this question before. You reminded me what love feels like when it isn't something you're supposed to control, when it's just something you surrender to. I smiled, wiping the rain from her face. You reminded me what it feels like to be chosen. Not because I needed saving, but because someone saw me and decided I was worth fighting for. She leaned her forehead against mine. I guess we saved each other. The rain continued to fall, but we didn't move. We stood there, two women who'd found each other in the most unexpected way, holding on to something neither of us had thought we deserved. Maybe it started as a deal, a desperate arrangement born of necessity and loneliness, but it ended as something truer, deeper, more real than either of us had ever expected. As the first snow of winter began to mix with the rain, Rebecca whispered against my lips, Stay. And I whispered back, Always. Because some promises aren't made with words or contracts or deals. They're made with hearts that finally learned how to be brave enough to love. And that's my story. The story of how a desperate knock on a door led me to the love of my life. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in love that's worth fighting for, let me know in the comments below. Have you ever taken a risk for love? I'd love to hear your story too. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Love Beyond Rules for more stories about love that breaks all the rules. Because sometimes, the best love stories are the ones nobody saw coming. Until next time, remember, love isn't about perfect timing or perfect circumstances. It's about finding someone worth staying for, even after the rain stops.